Hey everyone, this is Asia Bass Guy. We're on Houston County Lake, and this is day one. We're going back into a cove that has really deep water and steep, sharp banks, and just trying to find an area where I could see if they're out deep or shallow. And Roy just threw into an area where the bank in between the two docks had a rock on it, and he caught that fish there. He's throwing a KVD 2.5 in the bluegill pattern. Right here in front of that dock, there was a brush pile, and I'd thrown in that brush pile 3 or 4 different times. And you can bring a jerkbait through a brush pile. You just got to be real careful with it. The floating ones are the best for that, and as soon as you hit it, you can back it up. But they really seem to react whenever you hit the limb and it came off of it. And they would eat it. Now, this cove has, like I said, steep banks, and as we got back farther, the banks got more gradual, and the fish got a lot smaller. So we, as you can see here, this fish here, it got really small. We ended up going all the way in the back, but I mean, I think we caught one and it was like 8 inches. So we turned around, came back out, and we ended up going right across from where we caught those fish, and Roy threw a crankbait, that bluegill pattern KVD, up on the bank, up on the seawall, and there's rock up against the seawall, and he ended up catching this fish. As you can see, we've only been fishing for about an hour and a half maybe, and he ended up catching this fish. A jerkbait and a crankbait are 2 really good baits to use in the springtime, especially if you have rock, wood, anything like that. We tried throwing plastics and jigs and stuff like that, but we could never get anything established with that kind of bite. Just whenever you go to a new lake, I mean, you can go up and throw worms and jigs and stuff, but the people we were talking to that day that were throwing slow baits, they weren't doing very well with the cloud cover and the time of year. These fish were out roaming. This fish ended up going about 6 pounds, and for only fishing for about an hour and a half, it was a pretty good start. We were trying to go around the rest of the lake and try to find a good pattern, but this cove right here that we were in seemed like it was the best area to find staging fish. Now we went back out on the left side, the left point. I saw a lot of fish on the graph, and there was a lot of schooling Kentuckys out there, and whenever they would come in, you'd catch one on a jerkbait, but as you can see, they weren't real big ones. And so we decided to leave doing that. So we flipped back around thinking that we could catch another big one. And right where he caught that big one, he threw a jerkbait in front of a dock and caught this Kentucky. Now, we saw a lot of other big fish in this area, but we could never get them to bite. So we decided to go around the lake and try to find more new areas. And the wind started picking up. We started getting more bites, but most of our bites were really, really small. I mean, you can catch Kentuckys all day on the jerkbait on points, especially with wind on them. But we were looking for some of the bonus size fish. We came back to the point about where he caught that big one, and we had seen this fish earlier in the morning jump feeding on shad and stuff. And I threw my jerkbait, popped it off a rock, and ended up catching this one. Once the wind got up and it was blowing more shad and more bait up into the rocks. Now my other jerkbait broke, and so I was actually throwing a razor minnow and the bluegill pattern, and just bouncing it off the rocks. And that ended up going about 5 pounds.